County and City Council for January 23rd, 2023 is now in session. Roll call, please.
Council President, Mr. Arcaro,
Present.
Mr. Emery,
Here.
Mr. Goff,
Here.
Mr. Teske,
Here.
Mrs. Ledford. Here. Mr. Moiseo.
Here.
Mr. Prokowski,
Present.
City Manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Here.
Finance Director, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Law Director, Mr. Lewis.
We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I ask your blessings on this meeting, that everything discussed will be done in good deliberation and that wise decisions will be made. We ask your blessings on our community. We have so many opportunities, and yet we face so many challenges. We believe, Lord, with your guidance and with your help, that we can become the best. We're grateful to live in this community where we have good neighbors and beautiful scenery. And Father, help us to take advantage of what you've given us, what you've placed into our hands. Please watch over this community. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Move on to approval of the meeting minutes for January 9th, 2023. Are there alterations or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion? I'll make a motion, Mr. Arcaro. Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Teske.
Yes.
Ledford,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. Okay, we have a special presentation this evening on the water service line warranty, and it'll be a remote presentation.
Hi, thank you all for having me here this evening. My name's Ashley Shaworski, and I have my colleague with me, Chris Rebar. And we're from the National League of Cities Service Line Program, which you all implemented back in 2020. So we've appreciated your partnership for the last 2.5 years. So just as a refresher, our service line program, that's what helps to the resident repair or replace their water or sewer lines that are causing their issues. But what we're here tonight is to actually talk about a new program that we have since I met with you all back in 2020. So I'm going to see if this works, but I'm going to try and share my screen here. I was gonna say
It doesn't. Yeah.
Perfect. I don't need to. It's no big deal. So I can kind of just talk. Oh, perfect.
I'm sorry.
I
Let's
I
see
see it
here.
there.
Slideshow. Is that play for the beginning right there?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so you can just skip to the next one if that works. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we do have a new program offering since we implemented the National League of Cities Service Line program. And we're happy to answer any questions on that program too, if the council has any. But really what we're here to talk about is our new leak protection program. And this program was as a company called Servline that we acquired back in 2020, and they are partnered, or we're now partnered with the National Rural Water Association to administer this program, as well as the Ohio Rural Water Association as well. And where the service line program that you have implemented helps to repair or replace the issue, this actually helps to pay for the high water and sewer bill that may be associated with the leak. We know that the city currently has their own leak adjustment policy and process put in place, and this would really enhance that process and take the burden off of the staff there from administering the program. So you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So what we would do is we would actually customize our policy, which I'll go over in a little bit, to really replace what the city is currently doing. In talking to the city right now, you are making a 50% adjustment for residents that do have a high water and sewer bill due to a leak. So that's is kind of a pain point for both the resident and the city. So right now the city is dealing with those calls, taking care of those residents when they do have those high water and sewer bills due to a leak, spending time on that process. And then a lot of times the resident might not be fully happy because they're still left with half of that bill. So this would really replace and enhance that current process that the city has in place. So that way it would free up your staff time. The resident would no longer have to call you all there and ask for the adjustment. They would give us a call and it would be a better process for them where they can get that complete adjustment. If you want to skip to the next slide, I'll kind of get into the details for you. So the way that this would work is this would actually replace your current policy. So now if a resident did have a high water bill due to a leak, they would call us directly. So no longer would the staff have to handle these calls. And the city is able to choose one of these options to make available to the residents. You can choose to have a $500 leak adjustment, a $1,000 limit, or a $2,500 limit. The way that this policy would work is the resident is able to file one adjustment with us every 12 months. We do not have any type of qualifier, so any leak would qualify. We do go out we do verify that it's an actual leak. So that's really the only thing that is a requirement. It does have to be some type of leak causing the issue. And we do work with the homeowner to make sure they got that issue taken care of so they're not continually wasting water and have an ongoing high water and sewer bill. This program has absolutely no deductibles or hidden fees. If a resident has that high bill, they give us a call. We work with them to see what their 12-month average is, and then we pay anything over that 12-month average up to that benefit limit that you choose to the city. That way you can credit their account to ensure that they're actually using that money to pay for the high water and sewer bill. And what's nice also is we do pay over 2 billing cycles, because we know a lot of times a homeowner does not realize that they have a leak until they get that bill in the mail and it's already starting to calculate for that cycle. So we do pay over 2 billing cycles. And then as you can see, that we have those 3 coverage limits, as I mentioned, and they're ranges between $1 to $1.50 per month for the resident, just under $1 to $1.50 per month for the resident, based on the coverage limit that you would choose. And I do like to let everyone know that is the amount that we would charge, but we do have some of our partners that charge an additional admin fee on top of that as a revenue source as well, but that's completely up to you. And if you want to go to the next slide. And as for the way that this program is implemented, it is a little bit different than the traditional program that you already have implemented in your program. The way that this would work is we would actually create and customize a flyer, letting the residents know that this is the new policy going into effect, that it's replacing the current process and policy, lets them know all the details as well as how to file a claim. It lets them know that the day that it's going into effect, so the city chooses the date, whatever you want. It's completely up to you. And then we would include that flyer at least 30 days to this new policy going into effect. We can do 60 days, 90 days, whatever you choose. We handle all the costs associated with this. So this program is absolutely no cost for the city to implement. And there's 2 ways that you can implement this, and that is up to the city, whatever is the better fit for you. It can be added as a separate line item on the resident's water bill, and with the freedom to decline the coverage before anything shows up on their bill. Or we do have some partners that will include it in their base rate as a benefit for all customers, but that is completely up to you. And we do really just send this one announcement flyer letting the residents know about this new policy, but they are able to call us if it is added as a separate line item, call us at any time and opt out of the program. It's not like they're stuck in it forever. it's really just replacing your current policy. And the way that this program works is an actual insurance policy for the city, and your homeowners are considered claimants on that policy. And the reason why I just like to mention that is because since the policy is in your name and the residents are claimants, that allows us, the resident, to call us directly to file any claims, freeing up your time. But since the policy is in the city's name, that allows us to pay the loss or the overage for those high water and sewer bills directly to the city there, to ensure you are getting that money to credit that account. And then you could probably go to the next slide. I think might have talked about this one already, but yeah, so really we just come to find this really has it will enhance the customer satisfaction, because we know talking to the city, the current policy has kind of been a pain point, just dealing with that, writing off the money that you could be receiving for those water and sewer bills, but then also still having upset customers because they are left with 50% of that bill. So this would really help to free up that staff time, but have that better experience for that customer, hopefully. And then lastly, I know for here at HomeServe, we do have just about 1,200 partners across the US. We have over 30 participating in the service line program in Ohio, but we have 11 that are participating in the leak protection in addition to the service line repair replacement program. And I know I've rambled on to you this evening, so I'm sure you also might have some questions for me as well, that I'm happy to answer anything that comes up.
I have a quick question. So you take the average of the 12 months and then you pay over that, and I might have missed it on the slide. Is that then 100%?
Correct. We would pay 100%. So if someone gets a bill in the mail, say for $200 and their average bill is $50, we pay anything over that 50.
Okay, but you take the average first and they pay that much and then you pay the over. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
In your clients that you have so far, the 11 that you have so far, what is the most common coverage limit?
So most of our partners will get the $1,000 or the $2,500. The $2,500, 99% of leaks are under that, and it is just 22 cents more per month for the resident. So a lot of people like to choose that. We always do recommend kind of looking at what your adjustments are right now. So I know you're doing 50%. So, obviously, sometimes you can kind of take a look at what would be the best fit for your community. But most of ours do choose the 1,000 or the 2,500. And I always like to let everyone know, we have had some partners that chose 2,500 and then after year one saw that all of their claims were under 1,000 and then could switch at the renewal time as well. And then obviously the new pricing, or vice versa, start with the 1,000 and then go up to the 2,500. But that is completely up to what you think would be the best fit.
So the utility chooses the limit of coverage, not the consumer, the customer?
That is correct. It's a group policy. So the city would choose one limit for all of the residents there.
And then as a customer, I can opt in or opt out.
Yes, correct. So we provide that announcement for the homeowner. As I mentioned, we at least do it 30 days, but some do it at 60 or 90 days before the start, to give the residents a longer runway to call us to let us know they do not want that coverage. But yes, if they opt out during that period or any time, they can opt back in as well.
And as far as the city's concerned, is that a yearly contract?
So it is an insurance premium. So essentially it's cancelable at any time, but our typical renewal period is on an annual basis.
Okay, and since inception, have you had any increases?
So I was gonna say, we actually just, for a partner in Ohio, rural Lorraine, we just lowered the price. I know, looking at their claims after a year, it was, based on the data they provided us. The claims average was actually less. So we were able to lower the price. A lot of our prices have stayed pretty standard, but we have had a few that we needed to increase based on their claims dollars. But that would be only at renewal time and not without your, approval of that prior.
Okay.
What is your opt-in, opt-out as a community? Is it a 30-day out, or how do you typically handle renewals?
Sure. So the renewal period is typically with the city if they, that's because it is that group policy. So it's on that annual basis. But the homeowners, typically, with that announcement at the beginning of the program, that's really where you get the majority of the opt-outs. If they do, our average is about 96% of residents choose to remain covered by the program. But if at any time during that first year they miss that or say, I forgot to give you a call to opt out, they're able to do so and let us know. And we would refund any of the premium that they paid into it during that first 12 months. But after that, they still can opt out at any time. But if they opt out and want to come back in, then they do have a 30-day waiting period to file a leak claim.
How about new accounts? Is it just established at the time of new account?
Correct. Most of our partners have some kind of, when a resident signs up for a new account, they say, we have this leak policy. Do you want this on the bill? Yes or no? And then you would let us know about that new account.
Okay. What about accounts not in good standing? What happens in that case?
Sure. So we do have a 30-day grace period, but we have some partners that kind of want to, with us, we have some partners that want to extend that for residents, or some that want residents to be opted out of our coverage, obviously, because they're not paying their monthly bill. So they're not paying this portion either. But that's we can kind of make that policy however you want it to be, because we do customize this for you. So that whatever is best for you. But we do have some partners that will, with that admin fee that they add on, not saying you have to do that, but some people do add, an extra quarter per month or anything like that as an admin fee. But some of our partners will use that to pay for those residents' difference, or if anyone, is pretty far behind on their bill and they want them to keep covered. But that's completely up to the process that you set up.
Any special provisions on accounts that have been distributed to, say, as a house that's being rented? Do you have any special provisions on water accounts and the names of the occupant in a rental situation?
Sure. So this one is different than the program we currently have in place, where this policy would be and whoever is responsible for the bill. So if it is the renter that pays the bill and they're responsible for the bill and they sign up for the account, then this would go in their name. But if it is the homeowner, and they have tenants in there, but since it's in the bill's in their name, they're responsible for the bill.
That would be the same for, let's say, a business that owns an apartment complex, same type of premise.
Correct. We have these are our residential rates. I know when we initially talked with Jim, we were mainly focused on residential. We do have commercial products too, that depending on if it has a master meter, if it's what kind of property it is, there's different rate structures that we could also include for them. But that is something we can do also. We do know a lot of our partners start with residential and might roll out the commercial later, because there's a lot of nuances based on what exactly type of commercial property it is.
Hey, does council have any additional questions?
John, what is our average overage? Like if someone from a leak, what was the average cost for that individual? It varies. I know it probably varies greatly.
It really does. I mean, I've seen them from $100 to, we just had one that was $3,000. So. There's quite the range there.
So if it's 3,000 right now, the city will pay 50. The homeowner has to pay.
Generally, yes, it
One
it
share.
works out on an average. There's a formula we use, but on average, it works out to about 50%. But I would say probably the vast majority, I would say, are less than 1,000. But it does happen. I mean, we do get them above
How
1,000.
many roughly, approximately?
Probably get at least a half a dozen, I would say, in a year. You know, especially this time of year, I mean, there's one
Water
that, you know, they go away for the winter, lines break, they don't find out about it until the leak report, and then it's been running for a month or two, so.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. If you think of anything else, just let us know and we're always happy to help. And unlike the program, the service line program, there's no agreement with this because it is an insurance policy. We would just, if it is something that you all are interested in moving forward with, we just confirm, the amount that you chose and the date that you want it to start. So it's pretty easy for everyone.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
So we'll put this on the agenda for the next work sessions. We'll make a decision on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to citizen comments. There aren't any. Right? No. Okay. Does council have any citizen comments? Okay, move on to communications.
We did receive a thank you note from Jenna Williams in regards to city council. Thank you so much for presenting my award as well as the gift card to Dairy Queen. Their food is amazing and the gift card won't be going to waste. I appreciate your time. And once again, thank you for everything. Thank you, Jenna.
That's. Okay, does council have any communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our reports of the administration, beginning with city manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Thank you, Council President Arcaro. I have a couple brief updates for you this evening. We're going to have a follow-up meeting later this week with the ORDC and Norfolk and Southern discussing some of our options at various rail crossings. We've discussed this at a council, we've also discussed this at a joint Board of Education and council meeting. And coming up with some options with pedestrian issues on Chestnut and Mill Street, as well as Woodworth Road and Gore Road, which directly impact residents and commercial business. So I'll keep you apprised to where those discussions go and if we can get some additional resolution on some of those issues and maybe a path forward. As I don't foresee the issue given the law change, or I guess the Ohio Supreme Court ruling that we can no longer ticket trains that block crossings. So there's really no penalty for obstructing crossings and no maximum time limit. So we're trying to come up with some workarounds that are reasonable and can accommodate our local needs. The Conneaut Creek Dredge Material Facility, some good news. We got our final PTI, which is Ohio EPA language for permit to install. So they've already been down there doing some cut and fill, and this is their kind of final approval of construction drawings and submittals. So that's a pretty big deal. Really excited about that. Obviously, we'll have to do reporting and have periodic inspection as construction gets underway once the weather breaks here a little bit. And then one thing that you probably don't see in the background is there are substantial reporting requirements. And since we have a blend of grant funds from federal ARPA dollars through Ohio EPA, ODNR, we also have US EDA and Department of Commerce reporting. So it's quite a bit of reporting we're doing both monthly and quarterly for this project, and a lot of work in the finance office as well as with our engineers and internal staff. Our Buffalo Street boring project, It will officially be listed and on Wednesday. And I anticipate that to be back in about 2 weeks. So hopefully here before the end of February, maybe the first meeting in March, we'll be able to push this project forward. We've been waiting on permits and a couple various other updates from the railroad, which we're boring underneath. So that's kind of been in a hang pattern, waiting on that. So it's finally moving forward, and we'll be able to bring that back to council. I also have 2024 paving, or 2023 paving. I don't even know what year it is. So getting ahead of myself, getting too excited.
Okay, let's do.
So we're going to be talking about that at the next work session, and we'll start putting that package together so we can get that out to bid in March. Water treatment filtration plant, we are still waiting on a couple pieces, parts to come trickling in on the SCADA unit. These are largely computer pieces, so microchips and all that kind of stuff. So they've been delayed several times, but once that is the last piece of the puzzle we are waiting on, are some of the SCADA components and final install. I don't see this dragging out more than another 30 to 60 days in terms of its total completion and closure on this project. You know, we are a little over time on it, but it is all material delay. The contractor is very anxious to close this project, so it is almost substantially complete once we get those components in. Jump down. We've completed all our land bank demos. We've been submitting for reimbursement. We've received a good share of the reimbursement on the demolitions that we've completed thus far. The one outstanding item, which was not previously listed under the land bank, was the 518 Madison Street. That's a fire damaged structure that it burned sometime in early November. It is a complete loss. It's uninsured. The property owner doesn't have the ability or means to pay for it. We are seeking some additional grant dollars. I'm waiting on a response from an agency on that to see if we can slip it under that. If not, I've had the Housing and Zoning Office. They've already done some preliminary bidding work on this, so I'll be able to share those estimates for demolition with you, those preliminary estimates. Obviously, that number might change a little bit depending if we are able to get grant funds. If we're able to get grant funds, sometimes there's some different rules we have to abide by. That might change our costs slightly. So we will be covering that at the work session as well. Chestnut Street repairs, those are scheduled to be under construction here beginning tomorrow. So they're going to be working on that tomorrow to get that corrected. Obviously, they're going to be able to correct the piping issue, and it'll be refilled, but we won't be able to do any of the patching work that will be required there until we have a little better weather. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The Route 20 culvert repair has been a kind of a tougher one. We've been declined several times by various contractors to even provide pricing for it, which just demonstrates their busyness in this market sector, in this market space right now. We're anticipating a kind of a walkthrough on some final pricing we did receive later on this week. So I'll share that with council at the subsequent work session. But I wanted to give you that status update. I also provided you a giant big sheet. I'll explain it. We get to the ordinance. This fall, we did our commodities ordinance, which we always authorize in October, and then we begin the bidding process, and we sign and execute all those commodities that we receive, whoever the lowest bidder is. Late last year, we saw some real craziness, particularly in the area of Portland cement, and it's reflected in that pricing. So I did not enter either on any of the asphalt types or any of the concrete types commodities contracts. The concrete one is fairly obvious. There's almost a straight doubling on some of those numbers. They were pretty excessive. I think some of those numbers have calmed down a little bit, and I wanted to not enter a contract on those and see if that calmed down. So I'd like reauthorization from council to rebid the concrete ones. And then we had a really poor showing from asphalt where all the blank spaces there are all entities that chose not to even provide us pricing this last fall. So there was really nothing to award in that case. So as we come up on the season here for asphalt, I think they're going to feel a little more comfortable bidding. Speaking to a few of them, they didn't want to put a number on a piece of paper and be held to it 6 months from now, given the inflationary issues they were perceiving in the fall. So now that we're a little closer to the season, so I believe tonight there's a reject and rebid ordinance on your agenda for just these two items. Everything else in the commodities packet was awarded as normal. And never in my tenure as city manager here have we never not awarded a commodities item. So I see these as pretty dramatic examples of something that's occurred. And I didn't feel it was in the city's best interest to enter into contract under either of these circumstances. So we'll just take it back out and see if we can get better pricing. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Going back to Chestnut Street. This date on here, that's just a typo, hopefully.
State 24 again.
24, 23.
Yeah, that's typo. Tomorrow, it's tomorrow.
Good.
0 for 2 on the dates.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the city manager? Okay, thank you. Move on to Finance Director, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. A little while ago, I did provide counsel. I emailed out all the year-end budgetary reports, bank statements. And I know this was probably buried in that report somewhere, not the first page, but the other pages attached. But it does give a nice summary of where we're at, cash balance per fund. But I know we've had some questions, and I think Mr. Mosio had a question about carryovers and the percentage of carryovers. So what I did is I took some of the major funds, mainly the general operating funds, general funds, street department, water and sewer. And I know we discussed advances before, but what I did is gave you the beginning balance in year-to-date receipts and expenses in over and under. So that first one is the general fund without the advances, the 387,700. If you look at the over under, the revenue was over by 172,000 for the year. We would have ended the year with 1.25 million in unexpended funds and 1.18 million in unencumbered cash carryover, which equates to between, and what I did here is I gave you an unexpended percent of revenue and expense and unencumbered as a percent of revenue and expense. It varies between 22 and 24%, which is a very healthy carryover for the general fund. It's very good. If you go to the next line, that is with the advances out. Now that'll be repaid this year. We've already received the land bank funds and the dredge facility funds. We have not received the TID grant yet, which was the larger one. But as you look at that, it's under, revenue is under expenses by 214,000. The carryover is 862 and 794 unencumbered. Now you drop that carryover percent by, 10%, 8%. So you're looking at 16% carryover, but it is somewhat misleading. The other figure is actually a more accurate figure because those funds will be repaid. Street department began the year with 178,000, ended the year was 67. Revenues under by about 110,000. They have about a 4% carryover, but that's typical for the street department. It never really has much of a carryover. Sewer was 1.7 million, almost 1.8 million carryover from last year. But if you look at the over under, they used $611,000 in fund balance, which dropped their unexpended to 1.16 million. And if you look at the carryovers, it's about 40%, and it looks like a lot, but we used 611,000, almost 1/3 of the cash balance in that fund last year. And almost half of that, well, 500,000 of it was for sewer line. So it's very easy. I mean, it's somewhat misleading to say, hey, we have a 40% carryover, but you can use that pretty easily in a year. So I just want to emphasize that. And then water. I did water and then water net of OWDA proceeds and the water filter media project. So what I did on the one with the asterisk is I reduced the proceeds out of the revenue. But I also reduced the expenditure for the water filter media project. So how it looks on the fund statement is that first one. So we had a $1.1 million carryover beginning this year, 3.4 million in receipts, about 3.5 million in expenditures, and that includes capital. So we used about 154,000 in fund balance. But if you include or exclude the proceeds in water filter media project, that over under is about a negative 365,000. But it's still a pretty healthy carryover for that size of fund. And then on the year-to-date fund report, this was in the reports that I emailed, but I just thought I'd highlight this one if you want to take a look at it on your in front of you. The beginning year balance was 7.2 million. The end of the year was 6.3 million in all funds. There were encumbrances of 800,000, so we ended up unencumbered of about 5.4 million. And then the budget summary estimates for 2023. If you remember, when we went over this, I had estimated unencumbered fund balances. These are the actual unencumbered fund balances, our estimated revenue, estimated expense. So the actual unencumbered was 5.4 million. So this year we're estimating 32.6 million in estimated revenue. That does include all capital and all grants. We're estimating expenditures for this year at 35.2 million. And estimated unencumbered fund balance at the end of this year of 2.8 million. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And then, well, one other thing I want to add, Huntington did get back with me on the grader. I know we're probably going to discuss it at the next work session. They're looking at a 7-year term for the grader for a lease purchase. And I can give you the amortization schedule at our next meeting.
Okay, any questions for the finance director?
Thank you for summarizing this.
Thank you.
It does help a lot.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's important to note that for 22, there was no budget stabilization through ARPA, but there will be for 23, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So our fund balances we're pretty healthy as far as carryover.
Correct.
And without the use of ARPA
Without the
funding.
use of ARPA,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the law director, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I have nothing to report this evening, so if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay. Any questions for the law director? Okay, moving on to reports of our committees. Hearing none, liaison reports.
I do have 2 reports this evening, Mr. Arcaro. The first one is for the Cable Advisory Board meeting that was held January 18th. They met at noon at the Conneaut Public Library with approval of the Cable Advisory Board officers for 2022, having agreed to serve again in 2023 is Chuck Guglielmo as president, Lance Drew as vice president, and Martha Sorhan as secretary. Regis Galvin thanked all cable volunteers for their work in front of and behind the camera, and Lance Drew for manning the cable studio during council meetings. We had 1,000 streaming views between December 18th and January 18th, with Inside the Spartans and Around the Town with Chuck and Police Navidad getting the most views. The board approved a final draft of business cards to be given to people who inquiry about where to find the programs. Volunteers both in front and behind the camera, we always welcome them and always looking for new folks to get involved. You can contact Regis at the Conneaut Cable TV office or talk to Cindy Prather at the Conneaut Public Library. We are looking for high school students to become involved and to attend board meetings, perhaps from Conneaut High School, the media production class, which is restarting The next meeting will be mid-February with a date to be determined. And then there was also a Conneaut Conventions and Visitors Bureau meeting on January 23rd. Welcome new member Kay Peterson. Also approved a new member, David Spieldner. Sorry, Denver. Two new members on Visitors Bureau this month was Lisa Maskell for a vacation rental and Charlotte Baldwin, who is a realtor. They are still making plans for their strategic meeting, still gathering information and getting that together. A date will be announced in the future. The bylaws will be reviewed by the committee for this year and will be voted upon. They did have one question for me, and maybe John, you can answer this. They were wanting to know if there was any bed tax money left so that possibly could purchase some snowflakes from downtown. I wasn't sure about the fund balance for the bed tax.
Well, it's included in the general fund. They over collected this past year, so I'm sure if there were anything council could, or they could take it out of their budget. If there needs to be an additional appropriation, council could always reappropriate, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. Their next meeting is scheduled for February 21st, 6 p.m. at the Port Authority Building. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for a liaison report? It's really not a liaison report, but I did attend our joint meeting with the school board, myself and Mr. Hockaday. Couple of the highlights, they were very happy with the active shooter drill that the police department put on for them. And also they're planning to have spring break the last week of March. And the next joint session between council and the school board will be April 19th, 6 p.m. Gateway Middle School.
Was that April 19th?
Yes. 6 p.m.
Is there a particular location?
Their office
Gate-
at Gateway.
So not the high school gateway.
Right.
I know, that's what hurts my ears. Okay,
1800 at Gateway.
okay.
You'd be 10 minutes late.
2023, not 2024.
That's correct. 2023.
Okay, if there's no further liaison reports, we'll move on to our ordinances and resolutions for this evening. And we have 5 to consider in first reading. And we will begin with ordinance 0523.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to reject and rebid the commodities listed in section 1 below and declaring an emergency.
Okay, you heard Mr. Hockaday's report on that earlier. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Is there a motion to proceed?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Arcaro, to waive the 3 reading rule on ordinance 523.
There's a motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 0523. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes,
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes,
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Mozio, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I would like to declare ordinance 05-23 an emergency.
Motion to declare ordinance 0523 of an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
yes,
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes,
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Moisio, the emergency's been declared.
I'd like to make a motion to act on ordinance 05-23.
This motion to act on ordinance 0523. Is there a second?
second,
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
yes,
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes,
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, ordinance 0523 is passed. Move on to resolution 0623.
A resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the city of Conneaut a replacement of 2.75 mils of an existing levy and an increase of 2.0 mils in excess of the 10 mil limitation for a 5-year period commencing with tax year 2023 to be first collected in 2024 at the primary election to be held May 2nd, 2023 for street construction, maintenance, repair, and improvements, including but not limited to general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, repair of streets, roads, and bridges in the city of Conneaut.
Okay, we passed the companion resolution last meeting. Mr. Williams, would you like to add anything?
This would, significantly increase the amount of revenue that the city would have for paving. Material prices have just gone through the roof. It's barely enough to keep up with what we have right now. It really is needed. On $100,000 home, you're looking at an average of $5.83, I think, per month additional. We also will post I believe on the city's website, we'll post what it would cost for various homes from ranging from, I think, 30,000 all the way up to 300 or 400,000. So you can look at that and see where you're at.
And you did send an email out to everybody, should have received that on the new valuation.
Yes. But
So we're talking this levy, if passed at 4 3/4 mils or 4.75, about 980,000 with the current
I
valuations.
think the county estimated at 930, but they're estimating at a 95% collection. It probably would be 980. We usually over collect, but that's a more conservative estimate.
Okay,
So
so
they
we're
just don't want you to over appropriate.
right. Okay, so we're right around 900,000+
Yes.
potentially.
Yes. And probably really closer to $1 million. In all likelihood, but
Which right now would cost a homeowner on $100,000 home about $5 more per
I
month.
think 583, I believe it is.
83. Okay.
Any other questions or comments regarding this resolution? Is there a motion?
Mr. Carroll, I'll make a motion to waive the 3 reading rule on resolution 623.
Motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on resolution 0623. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Gao?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Morzio, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Mr. Carroll, I'd like to make a motion to act on 06 or on resolution 06-23.
There's a motion to act on resolution 0623. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Gao?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 0623 is passed. Move on to ordinance 0723.
An ordinance to reappoint Tom Prokowski to the Conneaut Port Authority for a period of 4 years, beginning February 24th, 2023, and ending February 23rd, 2027, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Hockaday.
So we have actually 3 appointments coming up. We're going to discuss one at our work session. We have one member that is not seeking to renew their term. They have some other commitments, and we'll go over that in work session. We have 2 members that are both in good standing, Mr. Tom Prokowski and Mr. Aaron Jocelyn. They've served for the past 4 years on the Conneaut Port Authority board. I think they've both done a fabulous job. They continue to consistently attend meetings, both inside their regular scheduled meetings as well as daytime meetings and other events and activities related to the Conneaut Port Authority. They both bring somewhat unique talents to the board. Mr. Prokowski has a very strong environmental science background. He's been instrumental in attaining the various levels of clean marina certificates that they've received over the past several years. It was one of my major goals for the port, was to achieve that clean marina status. We were one of the only marinas in the state of Ohio that did not have the basic certificate. And they most recently attained the platinum level. And I know a lot of board work, but Mr. Perkowski individually deserves some recognition for that. Mr. Jocelyn, as you know, has a background in insurance. I know that's surprising to find. So they had quite a bit of damage several years back, and I know Aaron was able to bring his expertise from that field into a variety of the problems that the Port Authority was facing there. And generally, they both have very strong business backgrounds. So they've both been strong and good contributing members of the Port Authority. I have no reservations in reappointing them or recommending their reappointment.
Any questions or comments regarding Mr. Prokowski's reappointment? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 7-23.
There's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 07-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Abstain.
Okay, and one thing I failed to mention, the reason for the emergency declaration is time. If you notice on there, that's why that is so. Hey, Mrs. Ledford, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
This time I'd like to declare ordinance 7-23 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 07-23 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Abstain.
Okay, Ms. Ledford, the emergency's been declared.
This time I'd like to act on ordinance 7-23.
There's a motion to act on ordinance 07-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Abstain.
Okay, ordinance 07-23 is passed. Move on to ordinance 08-23.
An ordinance to reappoint Aaron Joslin to the Conneaut Port Authority for a period of 4 years, beginning February 24th, 2023, and ending February 23rd, 2027, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, any questions or comments regarding Mr. Joslin's appointment? Is there a motion to proceed?
Make a motion to waive the 3 reading rule for ordinance 8-23.
There's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 08-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes,
Mr. Prokowski, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I'd like to declare resolution or ordinance 8-23 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 08-23 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro.
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes,
Hey, Mr. Prokowski, the emergency's been declared.
I'd like to act on 08-23.
This motion to act on 08-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro.
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes,
Okay, ordinance 08-23 is passed. Move on to our final ordinance for this evening, 09-23.
An ordinance to authorize payment to the following vendors in the amounts listed in section 1 below pursuant to section 570541 D1 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Williams.
This is, these are some street lighting bills mostly that were not able to be paid from maybe late November, December. We just didn't have the cash to pay for it, so it was delayed until now because a purchase order wasn't obtained prior to council has to authorize it. I know Mr. Hockaday is working with our broker to see if there's some sort of rate adjustment or potential refund on these accounts. Is there may have been an issue with the rate structure on these streetlights. So We'll see where that ends up, but for right now, we'll have to pay this.
And just to follow up on that, they were due after the beginning of the year, but before we could even attain a purchase order due to our end of year closure. So we're required to pay them. So
Yeah, we are, and it was for service in 2022, so. We didn't, maybe even receive them until 2023, but. Even though the service was provided, we should have had a purchase order, but it just wasn't possible to obtain a purchase order. Because we didn't have the funds available to pay for it.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 9-23.
This motion is suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 09-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mrs. Ledford, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
This time I'd like to declare ordinance 9-23 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 09-23 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mrs. Ledford, emergency's been declared.
This time I'd like to act on ordinance 9-23.
Okay, there's a motion to act on ordinance 09-23. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 09-23 is passed. That completes our ordinances and resolutions for this evening. Move on to unfinished and old business. I just have one thing, a reminder that the liaison for the Lieutenant Governor's office will be here on February 1st at 1:30 to meet with us here in council chambers regarding issues facing the community. If you would like to attend.
is that electronic?
No.
No, it's in person. Okay, great. Even better.
Any other unfinished and old business? Okay, hearing none, miscellaneous business.
Our next work session, Mr. Arcaro, will be February 6th, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
If it's not a holiday, yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule now, or the calendar now. Doesn't appear to be.
And that's at 5:30.
All right, so work session. 2/6 at 5:30. Okay.
Anybody else for miscellaneous business?
Mr. Huckabee, did you ever have a chance to follow up on that guardrail issue down there at the bottom of Chestnut Street where the Public Works column is?
I did. I looked at it. Nothing's really changed there, according to Mr. DeBell. Judgment call as to whether you want a guardrail there or not. I asked him to work up a materials estimate so we can budget it. And then I'll bring it back to you once he has that material estimate and budget.
Very good.
Do we have any guardrail left over from Route 20?
We have, I don't know that we have enough to substantially do that, but what we can do. So just so you know, where we pulled some of that stuff is a place called Firelands Supply. And it's over towards Toledo, and it's essentially used guardrail. This is guardrail that's been taken apart because it's been replaced, and then they resell it. We get a pretty good price on it when we do that, and it often matches our older style guardrails in a lot of places. Because there are different sizes and shapes of guardrail, but when we do that, we like to make kind of one big order because it travels by semi truck. So if when we purchase guardrail, we like to do kind of a more bulk purchase at the beginning of the year with our projects in mind. And some of it's a guess because you don't know how many cars are going to wreck into how many guardrails. And, obviously there's always stuff that's custom or special order, but Typically, that's where we buy it from, but we can do an upsized purchase. We try and buy a little bit more and fix a little bit of what's going wrong out there. We have lineal miles of guardrail that need to be replaced, particularly in the southern section. There's a lot of guardrail that's in really poor condition.
And since we're talking about guardrail, never did get the guardrail reset on Center Street at CLYO. I know it's been an easy winter and it's just a matter of replacing the posts, the guardrails there, just the posts are all broken and laid and the guardrails laying down, so,
I'll bring that to Joe's attention.
okay. Anybody else for miscellaneous business? I just have one other thing. Are we making any progress on streetlights?
Yes, they're reported monthly.
I still see quite a few. Okay,
What, Mr. Hockaday, what is, once we report them, how many days do they have?
They have 30 days from the data report
Okay.
to do it, or we can file a PUCO action.
30 days.
30 days from the data report.
Data.
And excuse me while I'm thinking of it. Has there been any change to the parking regulations downtown here on Main Street?
2 years ago.
But I mean, recently, prohibited parking signage posted that you can only park here no more than 2 hours, or I think there was a sign I noticed the other day in front of Golden Dawn.
It's been for quite
Has
some
that been
time.
there?
Yeah.
Where I just, and why I'm bringing it up, I just noticed the sign and
Yeah,
I'm like, how long has that been? I mean,
I think it's been there for some time,
It's forever.
and I
haven't noticed it. A red and white one?
Mhm.
I've never noticed that one.
Fun.
Wait a minute, what did I miss? Okay, and the Day Street parking, any other issues come up with the Day Street parking?
I followed up with Chief Colby. I haven't heard any additional issues.
Okay, any further miscellaneous business? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Oh. Go ahead. I'll second it. Nick moves, I'll second it.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Conneaut City Council for January 23rd, 2023 is adjourned. Thank you.